Jeff Rowe from Two Hacks Garage. Well, I know I've already said this, but you know what, guys? I had a blast at the No Name Nationals drag racing. It was the first time my 1968 Ford Thunderbird, highly equipped 521 cubic inch big block, went down the drag strip. I learned a whole lot. I even learned how important a starter was. But you know what? One of the biggest things I learned at the drag strip with this car was chassis tuning. Now, mind you, originally on this setup, it was just Lakewood shocks on here, 90-10 up front, 50-50 in the rear. And as time went on, I quickly learned that I needed to get something better in the back. So what I did with the back was I bought a set of double adjustable QA1 shocks. Now, while at the drag strip, I was starting to get those fine-tuned where I wanted it, and I didn't get it where I needed it, where I thought it was right, and then I broke. Well, life has it. You go on, move on. What I did learn, though, is after watching some videos, and I'll show a couple here in a second, as I was going past the 60 foot, coming down, the front shocks that I currently have on here were bouncing enough, and it was causing things to unload in the back. I'm not a chassis tuning expert, nor do I pretend to be one here on YouTube. But I do know that I need to tune the front chassis of this a whole lot better. The suspension is just a little bit too soft for this heavy car, especially with this big block Ford in it. So what did I decide to do? Well, I've already got QA1s out back that are double adjustable, so I might as well have those up front. So I went ahead and bought a set of QA1 double adjustable shocks. There's two knobs on here. I'll show them here in a second, compression and rebound. What's nice about this, seeing I've already got them in the back and I'll have them in the front, I can actually tune each corner exactly the way I want it. It's all fun and dandy when you're at the drag strip and you're pulling the front end off the ground and all that. But the overall goal, what I want to get with this car, is where it transfers the weight and it goes straight, keeps all four wheels planted, and just goes. Keeps traction, doesn't unload, and just goes. This car's got a whole lot of horsepower and torque, super low rear gear in the back. It's got enough tire in there on the right track. I really want to dip down in the low sevens, maybe high sixes. In order to do that, I'm going to be adding some more power to it. But when you add more power to it, you got to make sure your chassis and suspension is set up right. So with that, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what these shocks look like and kind of explain and go over what they do. See you in a few.
Turn the music down. I apologize for that.
All right, so what do we have here? Well, QA1 double adjustable shocks. One thing I do want to point out on this, sorry, my bad. These are the Shock Stalker series. And one thing I do really want to point out on this is they are made in the United States. These are actually made up in Minnesota. I like seeing products that are actually made in the United States instead of overseas. It's always good to see that, so I wanted to point that out first and foremost. So let's see what's inside this box. These come packaged quite nicely. Of course, it says QA1, go drive it on the box. Open it up. What do we got here? Wasn't planning on doing like a review type thing, but you know what, guys? Might as well do it. Well, first thing I see in here, that it's got instructions with here. They look to be pretty detailed, so these will come in handy. So that's always nice. Nice instructions that are step by step. Even talks about different loads, compression and rebound settings. So yeah, this is quite nice having the instructions. We also got your warranty card on here, so that's going to be nice. Limited lifetime. I'll have to do a little research on what that is, but as you can see, it takes you to their website to talk about it. And of course, guys, it comes with a sticker. This is 100 horsepower. Just kidding, but these are always cool for either your car, toolbox, fridge, whatever. We also got good hardware in here. Having new, fresh hardware is always nice. So that's a good quality plus there. And of course, what we do have in here is what we've been trying to get to is the actual shock. I'm going to go ahead and open this up, but as you can see, they do send these quite nicely packaged, so there's no damage on the way here. So why open these up, guys? I'll be right back. So what do we have here with these shocks? Well, what you have here is a shock, but what makes it different? Well, what makes it different is right here, these two knobs. C is for compression and R is for rebound. Compression is when things are wanting to force down, and rebound is the rate of return going back up. One thing I did notice on these, it's a really good construction. Everything is quality made, quality machining, and of course, pointed out right there, made in USA. But the other part I noticed about it, if you ever need to rebuild these or do anything, it's got the snap rings on here and on the top so you can take it apart and rebuild it. What's kind of nice about this is they're nice, clearly labeled. Each knob has 6 clicks per revolution, and it'll go around 3 times. So that's what the front shock looks like. Obviously, you can see it's going to be a pretty simple, straightforward installation, and we're going to go over that here in a second. But one thing neat about these right here, I do want to show you that I noticed on the instructions. If you look on the instructions right here, it talks about all the different settings. It even says front shocks, valve adjustments, rear shock valve adjustments. I use this same chart for my rear, but if you look here, it talks about drag racing, nice ride and handling, firm ride and improved handling, aggressive handling, shocks with 1 adjuster knobs, shocks with 2. So as you can see here, my fine tuning is going to be 12 to 18 clicks, rebound 0 to 6 clicks. So I kind of know my range here. I'm going to do a lot of research on kind of where maybe I need to start off with. Like I said, I really have no clue at this point. I was starting to get the rear of this car dialed in, well, until I broke. So that's kind of nice. Does come with this chart to talk about where you need to set those. And you know what? It is literally as simple as turning a knob. Not too shabby. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and let's get these installed so we can wrap this up. And you know what, guys? I'm ready to get these on. See you in a few. All right. Well, before we get started installing these, we actually have to take off the old shocks. So just like any other shock of this style, if you look right there, well, that's the top stud of the shock. So what happens is you're going to have to remove that. These are on top of the control arm on each side. So underneath the car, as you can see, the shock goes through the coil, and that top stud is on top. But if you look underneath here, you have the lower bolts that need to come off. So yep, it's just those 2 bolts and that top one, and you're going to slide it out and you're going to slide the new one in. So with the guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, well, what we got going on here is we got the old ones out. Pretty simple. There was studs in there, and we took the bolts off, took them off top, slid them right out. As you can see, the difference in construction here. Now this here, it's a 90-10 shock. It's the typical kind of, we want to call old school drag shock. For a lot of applications, it's actually quite a really good shock. I've ran them on different vehicles and they work quite well. However, this car, due to its weight, the amount of horsepower, torque, everything it's doing, you really want tunability. So that's why I'm going to go with these QA1s. By the way, we did set these already. We preset them. Like I said, don't know where we're at. We set them in the middle per the suggested ranges that were on the paperwork. What we ended up coming up with here, it said compression for drag racing was 12 to 18 and rebound 0 to 6. We went right in the middle, 9 and 3. So we got them preset. So now what we're doing is, since this car does, launch pretty hard and all that, and does have the capability of pulling the front wheels, we're actually drilling out the factory studs in this so we can put either the hardware that came with this or like a grade 8 hardware. It's just something I like to do, use proper hardware for what we got going on. So yeah, out with the old, in with the new. See you soon. All right, well, that's a wrap. Got them installed. I'll explain that in a minute. So we had to do a little bit of massaging on it. Kenny came over. That's Mad Dog. He's the official hauler of Rowdy, the 1968 Ford Thunderbird. And Jeffrey, he also helped out. He's done with sports for a while. So we're going to give him a deep dive into the world of automotive fun, ingenuity, creativity, and madness. So what we ended up doing with these, we removed the old shocks. Now, with the old shocks on the bottom of the control arm, it had factory 2 little studs. They're cheap, they're chintzy. Kenny cut them out, we re-drilled them, and we actually put grade 8 hardware in there. Hardware that came with us was pretty nice, but seeing the size of the holes we needed and how we need to reposition it, we went with a little bit smaller diameter bolt, and we used grade 8 hardware. From there on the bottom, when we had to go up underneath where the adjustment knobs are, we ended up doing what that is. There was a little bit too much meat up in there in the metal of the control arm, so we just radiused it out. Works really good. If you saw us, we were bouncing on the car. We were just making nothing in there, making sure nothing in there was too tight. So what we didn't want to happen is those knobs hitting anything under load, under compression. So that's it, guys. Pretty easy to do. As you saw, it was a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts. And what we ended up doing with that is just got them installed. We set them, like I said, right in the middle of everything. Am I going to have time to take this to the drag strip and figure out if it works or not? I'm really not sure right now. Currently, it's raining. It's getting cooler out. We do live in central Illinois. This is when the weather really turns. And actually, as you're watching this video, my son and I right now are probably having breakfast somewhere on a beach in Florida because that's where we're at right now as you're watching this video. When we get back, if things are dry, not cold, we might be able to get a couple more dates in to actually go drag racing. It's always up to the track. But if not, guys, it's always next year, spring. Still got a whole lot of work to do with this car. A lot of surprises to come with it. Other projects coming, and one really big project that we're going to get in January. You're going to want to stay tuned, but I appreciate you guys tuning in for upgrading the front suspension to the QA1. We have it out back. Now all we got to do is test it, tune it, and drive the hell out of it. Have a good one.